I came back from my trip, and when I walked into my bedroom, my bed was gone. My daughter-in-law appeared, smiling, and said, "Mother-in-law, we redecorated everything. This room is mine now." I kept my cool, looked her straight in the eye, and replied, "You want a space all to yourself? Perfect. Today you're going to find a house to live in." That's how the colour drained from her face. When I opened the front door of my house after a 15-day absence, the first thing I felt was that something was wrong. The air smelled different, of fresh paint, of expensive perfume that wasn't mine. I left my suitcase in the entryway and walked slowly down the hall, my heart beginning to pound harder, as if my body knew something my mind still didn't want to accept. My feet led me straight to my room. The door was ajar. I pushed it open with a trembling hand, and that's when my world stopped. My bed was no longer there. That mahogany wooden bed where I had slept for 25 years, where I had cried over my husband's death, where I had sewn my children's clothes in the pre-dawn hours, it had vanished. In its place was a modern white bed with decorative cushions that looked straight out of an interior design magazine. The walls I had painted a gentle peach were now light grey. My pictures, the photos from my wedding, of my young children, of my husband with his big smile, were no longer hanging. I felt the floor shifting beneath my feet. "Do you like how it turned out, mother-in-law?" The voice came from behind me, sweet as poisoned honey. I turned slowly. There stood Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, leaning against the doorframe with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She wore a tight, wine-coloured dress, her hair freshly styled, her nails perfectly manicured. She looked victorious. "What did you do?" My voice came out weaker than I intended. "We redecorated, mother-in-law. The house needed a change, something more modern, more functional." She walked closer and ran her hand along the grey wall. "And well, this room is perfect for me. It has better light, more space. Robert and I needed it." My hands started to shake. I clenched my fists to control them. "Where are my things? Where is my bed?" Vanessa sighed, as if I were a child throwing a tantrum. "In the garage, mother-in-law. It's all there, nicely put away." She paused and tilted her head. "Don't worry. We thought you could stay in the guest room. It's smaller, yes, but at your age you don't need so much space, right? Plus, this way you don't have to climb the stairs every day." Each word was a slap in the face. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. I stared at her, right into her eyes. Those eyes that now shone with something I had never seen before. Contempt. And in that moment, I understood something that broke my heart. To her, I wasn't a person. I was a nuisance. An old piece of furniture that had to be moved to make space. I took a deep breath. "You want a space all to yourself?" I said with a calm I didn't know I possessed. She smiled wider, thinking she had won. "Perfect," I continued. "Today you're going to find a house to live in." Her smile froze. The colour drained from her face as if someone had pulled a switch. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. "What did you say?" "You heard me, Vanessa. If you need your own space so badly, get your own house. This one is mine." But what I didn't know at that moment, what I couldn't yet imagine, was that this confrontation was just the beginning. Because Vanessa hadn't acted alone. And what I would discover in the next few days would destroy me in ways I couldn't even fathom. Because when you trust the people you love, you never expect them to stab you in the back. Much less when those people are your own flesh and blood. If this story is touching your heart, subscribe to the channel to continue learning about real testimonies from women who found their strength when all seemed lost. Vanessa looked at me as if I had lost my mind. She let out a nervous laugh, the kind that sounds fake even to the person making it. Mother-in-law, you can't be serious. Evict us? But Robert is your son. This is his house too. I bought this house, I said, and my voice was firm now. I paid for it brick by brick, with the sweat off my brow, and nobody asked my permission to touch my things. At that moment, Robert appeared in the hallway. My son, the boy I carried in my womb, who I raised alone after his father died, to whom I gave everything I had and everything I didn't. He was wearing sweats and a t-shirt, looking like he'd just woken up, even though it was already 3 in the afternoon. "What's going on? Why are you two yelling?" he asked, scratching his head. "Your wife turned my bedroom into hers," I told him, feeling the rage begin to break the calm I'd maintained. "Without asking me, without even telling me. Did you know?" Robert avoided my gaze. He stared at the floor, just like when he was a child and I caught him in a lie. "Mum, Vanessa said it was a surprise, that we wanted to update the house to make it look nicer. I didn't think that—" "You didn't think?" I interrupted him. "Or you didn't want to think?" Vanessa moved closer and took his arm in a gesture meant to be protective, but which looked possessive to me. "Robert, your mother is overreacting. We just made some improvements. The house was very dated, with really old furniture. We did it for everyone's benefit." "For everyone's benefit," I repeated, feeling something hot rise in my chest. "Where is the benefit for me in all of this?" Robert finally looked at me. "Mum, calm down. It's not that big of a deal. We can fix up the guest room really nicely for you. We can even—" "I don't want you to fix up anything," I cut him off. "I want my room. I want my things. I want to be respected in my own house." The silence that followed was dense, uncomfortable. Vanessa squeezed Robert's arm tighter. "Mother-in-law, I think you're being a little selfish," she said, her tone now colder. "This house is big. It has 4 bedrooms. Why do you need the biggest one if you're alone?" "Robert and I need space. We're thinking of having a baby soon and—" "Then find your own house for that baby," I said. Robert sighed, frustrated. "Mum, don't be like that. Where are we supposed to go? We live here. This is our home." "Your home," I repeated slowly, letting the words hang in the air. "And what about mine?" I needed to see my things. I needed to confirm with my own eyes that this wasn't a nightmare. I went downstairs to the garage with Robert and Vanessa following me. When I opened the door, the smell of damp hit my face. There they were, my furniture, my antique wooden dresser that had belonged to my mother, my disassembled bed leaning against the wall, my boxes. I opened one with trembling hands and found my photographs carelessly tossed inside, some with broken frames. The picture of my wedding with Louis, the glass shattered right over his smiling face. I felt something inside me break. "We put them away carefully, mother-in-law," Vanessa said from behind, but her voice was hollow, without conviction. I took the broken photograph in my hands. Louis looked back at me from the past, young, happy, unaware that he would die just 12 years later and leave me alone to raise our children. I pressed the frame to my chest. "I need to be alone," I murmured. "Mum," Robert tried to approach. "I said I need to be alone," I screamed, and my voice echoed off the garage walls. They left. I heard them go up the stairs and close the door. I stayed there, sitting on the cold garage floor, surrounded by my life packed away in cardboard boxes as if it were worthless. I cried. I cried like I hadn't since Louis's funeral. But these tears were different. They weren't tears of sorrow for an inevitable loss. They were tears of rage, of betrayal. of pain so profound it was hard to breathe, because it's one thing to lose someone to death. It's another, very different thing for the living to erase you, to discard you, to treat you like you're a nuisance in your own house. That night I slept in the guest room, or I tried to sleep. The bed was small, the mattress hard, and from there I could hear Vanessa and Robert's laughter in my bedroom. At some point in the early hours, I heard them making love. And I, the owner of this house, was lying there in a room that smelled of disuse, staring at the ceiling, wondering when my life had turned into this. But what they didn't know, what I still didn't know, was that this humiliation was only just beginning. Because the next day I was going to discover something that would force me to open my eyes once and for all. Something that would show me that the redecorating of my room wasn't just a capricious renovation. It was part of a plan they had been drawing up for months, and I had been so blind, so trusting, that I didn't see the signs until it was too late. Or maybe not too late. I couldn't sleep. The hours passed slowly, heavily, as I tossed and turned in that small bed that creaked with every movement. At 4 a.m, I gave up. I got up and went to the kitchen to make myself some chamomile tea, the kind my mother used to make me when I was a child and couldn't sleep. The house was silent. All I could hear was the tick-tock of the wall clock that Louis had given me for our 10th anniversary. I sat at the kitchen table, the hot mug cradled in my hands, and memories flooded me like waves. I remembered when Louis and I were young and dreamed of having our own house. We lived in a rented 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, with walls so thin we could hear everything the neighbors did. Louis worked as a mechanic, and I sold breakfast tacos in the mornings. We saved every dollar, every single dollar. I remembered the day we found the land. It was an empty lot in Staten Island, far from the city center, without utilities, but it was the only thing we could afford. $200,000 that took us 8 years to save. When we signed the deeds, Louis picked me up and spun me around in the middle of the dusty lot. "Here is where we'll build our future, my love," he told me. I was 32 years old. He was 35. We never got to build it together. 2 years after the accident, Louis died when a car ran a stop sign and hit him on his way to work. I was left alone with Robert, who was 15, and Lucy, who was 12. Without money, still without our own house, but with a piece of land and a promise I had made in front of his grave. Our children would have that home. I took 2 jobs, 3 sometimes. I cooked at a diner from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then I cleaned offices from 4 to 9 in the evening. On weekends, I sold gelatin and cakes at children's parties. I slept 4 hours a day. My hands became calloused. My back started to hurt permanently, but I kept saving. Robert would tell me, "Mum, rest. The house doesn't matter." But it did matter. To me, that house was more than bricks. It was proof that Louis's sacrifice hadn't been in vain. It was my way of honoring his memory. It was the stability my children deserved. It took me 15 years to save the $800,000 for the construction. 15 years watching other mothers go to school festivals while I was working. 15 years without buying new clothes, without going to the movies, without treating myself. Everything, absolutely everything, went to the house. When we finally finished building, I was 49 years old. I invited my children to see their home. Robert, already 30, came with Vanessa. They had been dating for 6 months. She walked in looking at everything with disinterest, as if it were just any house. She didn't know. She couldn't know that every tile in the bathroom had cost me a double shift, that every window represented a month without eating meat, that this spacious living room existed because I had worn broken shoes for 2 years. Lucy, though, cried. My daughter hugged me and whispered in my ear, "Mum, you did it. Dad would be as proud." Now, sitting in my kitchen at 4 in the morning, at 67 years old, and feeling every one of them in my tired body, I wondered, what had it all been for? To end up displaced in my own house? To have my daughter-in-law erase my history as if it meant nothing? To have my son allow me to be treated like this? The tears fell again, silent, bitter. I heard footsteps on the stairs. It was Robert. He came down in boxers and a t-shirt, his eyes puffy with sleep. He was surprised to see me. "Mum, what are you doing awake?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at him. I tried to see the child who used to hug me and tell me I was the best mum in the world in this 42-year-old man. But that child wasn't there anymore. "I can't sleep in that bed," I finally said. "My back hurts." Robert opened the refrigerator and took out some water. He poured himself a glass and stood there, without looking at me. "Mum, I know you're upset, but do you know how much this house cost me, Robert?" He stayed silent. "Do you know how many nights I worked without sleeping so you could have a roof over your head? How many times I skipped meals so you could eat 3 times a day? Mum, don't start with that." "No, son, I need you to understand." I stood up, feeling my knees protest. This house isn't just walls and a roof. It's my blood. It's my life. And you two are treating it like it's a property you can remodel on a whim. Robert put the glass down on the table harder than necessary. "And what do you want me to do? Tell Vanessa to undo everything?" "We already spent $150,000 on the remodel, Mum." $150,000? I froze. "What did you say?" "The paint, the furniture, the decorator, all that costs money." "And where did you get that money?" Robert looked away. "We have our savings." But something in his tone told me he was lying. I knew him too well. When he lied, he scratched the back of his neck and avoided eye contact, just like he was doing now. "Robert, look at me." He didn't. "Look at me." He looked up, and in his eyes I saw something that scared me. Guilt. Deep guilt. "What did you do?" I asked, feeling fear begin to crawl up my back. "Nothing, Mum. We just improved the house, that's all." "Did you use my money?" "No." "Then what?" Silence. A silence that weighed tons. Robert finished his water in one gulp and headed for the stairs. "I'm going back to sleep. You're being paranoid." I was alone again in the kitchen. But now fear had settled in my chest like a clenched fist. Because I knew my son, and I knew when he was hiding something from me. Something big. The next day, I was going to start looking for answers. I was going to open drawers, check papers, ask questions. And what I was going to discover would break my heart into even smaller pieces. Because sometimes the greatest pain doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people who swore to love you. And when that betrayal is revealed, the world is never the same. For the next 3 days, I acted as if nothing had happened, as if I had accepted my new place in the hierarchy of my own home. I made breakfast, I cleaned, I smiled when I had to smile. But inside, every fibre of my being was on alert, watching, listening. Vanessa paraded around the house like a queen. She had appropriated not only my room but also my space in the kitchen. She moved my iron skillets, the ones Louis had given me, to the top cabinet where I could barely reach. She put her expensive ceramic pots in the spot where mine had always been. Small victories that she savoured every time I had to ask her for help reaching something. Robert left early for work and came back late. An engineer at a construction company, he earned well. But it was never enough for his expenses. It had always been like that. He spent more than he had. When he was young, I covered his small debts. He's young. He's learning, I told myself. Now he was 42 and still hadn't learned. On the third day, Vanessa went to the beauty salon. "I'm going to get my hair done, mother-in-law. I'll be back in 3 hours," she said, while applying lipstick in front of the foyer mirror. My mirror, the one I had bought at an antique market 20 years ago. Robert was at work. The house was empty, silent. It was my opportunity. I went up the stairs slowly, holding my breath as if someone might hear me. I went into what had been my bedroom. The smell of Vanessa's perfume saturated the air. It made me nauseous, but I pushed on. I opened the closet. All my clothes were gone. In their place, expensive dresses, designer shoes, bags that cost what I earned in a month when I was working. I closed the closet and went to the desk. It was a new, modern, glass piece of furniture. A closed laptop lay on top of it. I didn't touch it. I didn't know how to use those tech things, but I opened the drawers. Papers. Lots of papers. Furniture invoices. $45,000 at a luxury decoration store. Receipts for payments to an interior designer. $30,000. Receipts for imported paint. For curtains. For a lamp that cost more than my first car. And then I found something that chilled my blood. A manila folder. Inside, printed documents from the internet. Pages about possession rights for property improvements. Legal articles marked with yellow highlighter. When a family member invests significant money in property improvements, they can claim rights to the property, especially if there is prolonged cohabitation and the original owner is elderly. My hands started to tremble so much that I nearly dropped the papers. There were notes in the margins. Vanessa's handwriting. Lawyer consultation, $5,000. Document all improvements, photos before and after. I kept looking. Further back in the drawer, I found an envelope. Inside were photocopies of documents, the deeds to M and the house. But these copies had post-it notes attached, changed to joint name with a question mark. How much time of possession is needed? My throat closed up. I couldn't breathe. Vanessa hadn't just redecorated for the fun of it. She was building a case. She was documenting investments to claim rights to my house. To the house I had built with the sweat of 15 years of work. I took out my cell phone, an old one Lucy had given me, and took pictures of everything with trembling hands. I didn't know exactly how the camera worked, but I pressed buttons until I heard the click. I put everything back exactly as it was and left the room. I went down to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water, but I couldn't swallow. The water got stuck in my throat, along with the knot of betrayal that kept growing and growing. I needed more information. I waited until night fell. Robert arrived at 9, tired. He went straight to take a shower. Vanessa was watching television in the living room, on my favorite couch, eating popcorn and letting kernels fall on the floor without picking them up. I went to bed early, or so I pretended. At 11 at night, I heard Vanessa talking on the phone. Her voice came from the backyard. I got up quietly and approached the guest room window that faced the garden. The thin curtains allowed me to see without being seen. There she was, walking among my geranium pots, the cell phone glued to her ear. "It's almost ours, Mum. I swear. The old woman is confused." Her voice sounded excited, triumphant. "She says she's going to kick us out, but she can't. Robert is her son. This is his home, too." Silence while she listened to her mother on the other end. "No, she doesn't know anything about the loan yet. Robert is scared of her. He's not going to tell her." She laughed. "Imagine her face when she finds out we used the house as collateral." But by then we'll have everything sorted out. My heart stopped beating. Loan? Collateral? Look, Mum, the plan is simple, Vanessa continued. We keep investing in improvements. The more money we put in, the stronger our legal case. The lawyer said that if she tries to kick us out, we can counter-sue for the investments. And if it gets difficult, well, she's 67 now. How long does she have left? 5, 10 years tops. Afterward, this house will be worth more than $2 million with all the work we've done. We sell it and buy something better in a trendy neighborhood, just like you always wanted. Tears streamed down my cheeks, but I made no sound. I bit my fist to keep from screaming. Robert is a fool, but he's easily manipulated, Vanessa went on. His mother has him so traumatized that he'll do anything not to disappoint her. But I'm not manipulated. I know what I want, and I'm going to get it. More silence, then a laugh. Violent? Don't be dramatic, Mum. I'm just being smart. If she was foolish enough to let us live here free all these years, that's her problem. We're just taking advantage of the opportunity. Free? She said, Ray. As if the 3 years they had lived here I hadn't cooked for them every day. As if I hadn't done their laundry. As if I hadn't paid the electric, the water, the gas. As if I hadn't given Robert $50,000 when he needed the down payment for his car because his credit was rejected. I moved away from the window before I could hear any more. I went back to my small bed and lay there, staring at the ceiling, my heart beating so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Now I knew the truth. It wasn't just the dispossession of a room. It was a calculated, meticulous plan to take my house, to keep the only thing I had left in this world. And Robert knew. My son knew and hadn't said anything to me. That night I made a decision. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't cry anymore. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me broken. I was going to be smart. I was going to plan. And when I attacked, it would hurt so badly that they would never forget what it feels like to betray the person who gave you everything. But first, I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. The next day, bright and early, I dialed a number I hadn't used in months. The phone rang 3 times before it was answered. Mum, are you okay? Lucy's voice sounded worried. I never called her that early. Honey, I said, and my voice broke despite my efforts to sound strong. I need you to come home. I need your help, and I need you to come now. Lucy arrived 2 days later. She couldn't come sooner. She had scheduled hearings at her law firm in Chicago, but she promised me she would come on the weekend. Those 2 days were the longest of my life. Vanessa noticed that something had changed in me. I no longer smiled at her. I no longer pretended everything was fine. She watched me with suspicion, like a cat that knows the mouse is planning an escape. Is everything okay, mother-in-law? She asked me Thursday morning while I was making breakfast. Perfectly, I replied without looking at her. You seem tense. I'm fine. She put her coffee cup down on the counter with a dry thud. Look, mother-in-law, if you're still upset about the room, I think you're being very immature. It's time to get over it. Things change. You're getting old. You need to adapt. I turned to look at her. She was wearing designer athletic wear that cost what I earned in a week selling breakfast tacos 20 years ago. Her hair was pulled back in a perfect ponytail. Her nails were freshly done, all paid for with money my son went into debt to give her. You're right, I said with a calm that surprised me. Things change. She smiled, thinking she had won again. She had no idea what was coming. On Friday night, Vanessa gave me the news. Mother-in-law, some friends are coming for lunch tomorrow. We're going to be in the living room and we need privacy. Can you stay in your room? Oh, and if you could prepare something good, we'd appreciate it. You know, your turkey meatloaf is good. Make that. It wasn't a question. It was an order. Robert was sitting on the couch watching football on TV. He didn't say anything. He didn't even turn to look at me. What time? I asked. Around 1 in the afternoon. And mother-in-law, please put on something presentable. Not that old robe you always wear. That night I barely slept. I knew Lucy would arrive in the morning. I knew I just needed to hold on a little longer. But I didn't imagine that before my daughter arrived, I was going to endure the biggest humiliation of my life. Saturday, 11 in the morning. I started preparing the turkey meatloaf, ground turkey with the touch my mother taught me, mashed potatoes, green beans. The smell filled the house. At 12:30, the doorbell rang. Vanessa rushed to open it. 4 women her age came in, all dressed up, perfumed, laughing loudly. They were carrying bottles of wine and bags from an expensive boutique. "Welcome to my house," Vanessa said, emphasizing the "my" while glancing at me. They settled in the living room. I set the meatloaf out on the dining counter, thinking they would come and get it. But Vanessa came into the kitchen and motioned with her hand. "Mother-in-law, take them to the living room and bring us the wine too." I froze. "What?" "Serve us in the living room. We don't want to get up." I took a deep breath. I picked up the tray with the plates and walked out. Vanessa's friends looked at me with curiosity. "Oh, that looks delicious," said one of them, a blonde with sunglasses on inside the house. I served the plates. I went to get the wine. When I returned with the bottle and glasses, Vanessa was showing her friends her new room. "Come on, I'll show you how it turned out. It's gorgeous." The 5 of them went up the stairs. I stayed downstairs, feeling my stomach churn. I could hear their voices and laughter from the second floor. "It's beautiful, Val." "And this was your mother-in-law's room?" "Yes, but you know how older ladies are. Everything old and depressing. We did her a favor moving her to a smaller room." Laughter. They came down after 10 minutes. They sat down to eat. I was in the kitchen, cleaning, trying to disappear. But then I heard Vanessa's voice. "Mother-in-law, can you bring us more napkins?" I went out with the napkins. When I put them on the table, one of the friends, a brunette with huge earrings, looked at me with a condescending smile. "And you're Robert's mother?" "Yes." "Oh, how convenient to have help living in the house, right, Val?" she said to Vanessa, with a knowing nudge. My blood ran cold. "Very convenient," Vanessa replied, laughing. "Although sometimes you have to tell her how things are done. You know, the older generation had different standards." The laughter grew louder. Another friend, a redhead with long decorated nails, looked directly at me. "And do you pay her anything?" she said. "I mean, for the cooking and cleaning?" The silence that followed was deafening. Vanessa took a sip of wine, savoring every second. "No, but we give her a roof and food. It's enough, isn't it? Besides, she's family. Family helps each other." The roar of laughter exploded. I stood there, my cheeks burning, feeling every laugh as a slap. They saw me as the maid, as a free employee in my own house. "Mother-in-law, can you clear these plates? We're done." My hands trembled when I picked up the plates. One slipped, but I caught it before it fell. More laughter. "Careful, mother-in-law." I went back to the kitchen. I put the dishes in the sink. And there, standing in front of the window where the midday sun streamed in, something inside me broke. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was silent, like a fine crack in a pane of glass that changes everything. I leaned on the sink, closing my eyes, breathing deeply. The tears wanted to come out, but I didn't let them. I wouldn't cry. Not anymore. At that moment, I heard a voice behind me. "Mom." I turned. There was Lucy in the kitchen doorway. I hadn't heard her arrive. She had her small suitcase, jeans, a simple blouse. But what I noticed most were her eyes full of tears, itos of rage. "How long have you been here?" I whispered. "Long enough to hear everything." Her voice trembled. "Long enough to understand what's going on in this house." More laughter drifted from the living room. Vanessa was telling some story, her voice loud and confident. Lucy put her suitcase on the floor and walked toward me. She hugged me tightly, and in that embrace, I allowed myself for a second to be fragile, to be the mother who needed her daughter's comfort. "No more, Mum," she whispered in my ear. "This ends today." She pulled away from me, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, and in her face I saw the same determination that I had when I was young, and decided to build this house against all odds. "Where is Robert?" she asked. "He went out. Said he'd be back tonight." "Perfect. Then we're going to work, you and I, like it should have always been." "What are you going to do?" Lucy took my hands, her lawyer's hands, soft but firm. "I'm going to do what I should have done a long time ago. Protect you, defend what's yours, and teach that woman that she can't steal your life. Lucy, she has papers, plans, and I have the law on my side, and I have something she'll never have." "What?" "The truth." She squeezed my hands. "Now give me your phone. I need to see those pictures you told me about. And then we're going to check every document for this house, every paper, every receipt. We're going to build a case so solid that when we're done, Vanessa will wish she had never set foot in this house." From the living room, Vanessa's voice shouted, "Mother-in-law, more wine." Lucy looked at me. I looked at her. And for the first time in days, I smiled. Not a happy smile, a war smile. "You go," I told Lucy. "Introduce yourself. I want to see her face when she knows I'm not alone anymore." My daughter walked out of the kitchen with firm steps. I followed a few feet behind her. Vanessa was pouring more wine when she saw Lucy. Her smile froze. "Lucy? What a surprise." "Hello, Vanessa," my daughter said, her voice cold as ice. "I came to spend a few days with my mum. I hope you don't mind if I use my old room." "Oh, wait. Right. It's yours now, isn't it?" The silence in the living room was absolute. Vanessa's friends looked at us, not understanding what was happening. Vanessa tried to regain control. "Of course, there's no problem. You can stay in the other guest room, don't worry. Mum and I have settled into the room." Lucy smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. "We have a lot to talk about. Legal things, about property, inheritance, that sort of thing. Right, Mum?" All eyes turned to me. "That's right, honey," I said, and my voice came out firmer than it had in days. "Lots of things to check." I saw the colour drain from Vanessa's face, and I knew she knew. She knew her game was over, that the foolish, manipulable mother-in-law, who could be stripped of everything, had just called in reinforcements, and those reinforcements weren't going to play fair. Vanessa's friends left half an hour later. The atmosphere had become uncomfortable, tense, like when everyone knows a storm is about to break, but no one wants to be the first to talk about it. Vanessa saw them off at the door with fake kisses and promises to see them soon, but I could see her hands trembling as she closed the door. Lucy and I were sitting at the dining room table. My daughter had pulled out her laptop, a thin silver one that shone under the light, and had spread papers all over the table. I had given her my phone with the pictures I took from Vanessa's desk. "This is serious, Mum," Lucy said, while examining the images, enlarging them with her fingers on the screen. "Very serious." Vanessa walked into the living room. She had taken off her heels and was walking barefoot, trying to look casual, but I noticed how her eyes kept darting to the papers on the table. "What are you doing?" Lucy looked up. "Reviewing documents, Mum's legal matters. Don't worry." "What documents?" "The house documents," I replied, looking straight at her. "The deeds, the payments, everything that proves who owns this property." Vanessa crossed her arms. "No one is saying it's not your house, mother-in-law." "Oh, really?" Lucy took out her phone and pressed the screen. Suddenly a voice filled the room. Vanessa's voice talking on the phone in the garden. "It's almost ours, Mum. The old woman is confused." I had recorded everything that night without her knowing. My old phone had a recorder function that Lucy had taught me to use months ago. The colour drained from Vanessa's face. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. "Sit down," Lucy said with a lawyer's voice, the voice that doesn't accept no for an answer. Vanessa remained standing. "I said, sit down." Vanessa obeyed, collapsing onto the couch as if her legs could no longer hold her. Lucy stopped the recording. "Now we're going to talk, and you're going to tell me the truth. What loan?" I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't take me for an idiot." Lucy's shout even surprised me. My daughter had always been calm, measured. "I have the recording. I have photos of legal documents you were researching about possession rights. I have receipts for $150,000 in renovations that were not authorized by the owner of this house. So I'm going to ask you one more time. What loan?" Vanessa bit her lip. Her eyes filled with tears, but I no longer felt compassion. I just wanted answers. "Robert," she began, her voice cracking. "Robert took out a loan." "For how much?" Silence. "For how much?" $250,000. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. $250,000, more than the cost of building part of this house. "And they used what as collateral?" Lucy asked, although from her tone she already knew the answer. "The house," Vanessa whispered. "But it's not what you think." "It's not what I think." Lucy stood up, pacing around Vanessa like a lawyer questioning a witness. "You used my mother's house, without her knowledge, without her signature, as collateral for a loan. Do you have any idea that's fraud?" "We do have the signature," Vanessa burst out. "Robert forged it." She covered her mouth, but it was too late. The words had come out. The world stopped. "What did you just say?" My voice was barely a whisper. Vanessa began to cry for real now, with sobs that shook her body. "We didn't want to do it that way, but we needed the money. Robert has debts, lots of debts you don't know about, Mum. Credit cards, personal loans. If we didn't pay, they were going to sue him, put him in jail." "And your solution was to steal your mother's house?" Lucy's voice was steel. "To forge her signature?" "We were going to fix everything before you found out." Vanessa looked at me with desperation. "The plan was to remodel the house, increase its value, and then sell it. With that money, we would pay off the loan and give you your share. We were going to buy you a small, comfortable apartment where you wouldn't have to worry about anything. Where I wouldn't be in the way," I finished the sentence for her. A heavy silence fell. "And the legal research on possession rights," Lucy continued. "Was that also part of this very generous plan?" Vanessa didn't answer. "I thought so." Lucy returned to her laptop. "Mum, give me the house deeds." I got up on shaky legs and went to my room, the guest room where I now slept. From the bottom of my suitcase, I pulled out a yellow envelope where I kept the most important documents of my life. The deeds were there, protected in a plastic sleeve. I brought them to Lucy. She examined them carefully, turning each page with a lawyer's attention. Here it is, she said after a few minutes. Spousal protection clause. Dad was very smart when he drafted this with the notary. The house is solely in Mum's name. For any transaction, sale, or using the property as collateral, her certified signature before a notary with 2 witnesses is required. And it specifically says here that no one can transfer rights or create liens without the explicit consent of the owner. She looked at Vanessa with eyes that could cut glass. Which means any document you signed with a private lender is void, completely invalid. And if you forged my mother's signature, you are not only committing property fraud, you are committing a federal crime. Vanessa was pale as death. Please, please don't do this. Robert is your brother. Robert is a thief, Lucy said coldly, and you are his accomplice. The front door opened. Robert walked in with a grocery bag, whistling carelessly. He stopped dead when he saw the 3 of us in the living room, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. What's going on here? Sit down, Robert, I told him, and my voice no longer trembled. It was filled with something new, disappointment so profound it had turned into strength. Mum, Sit down. He sat next to Vanessa. My son, the boy I carried for 9 months, who I breastfed, who I watched over when he had a fever, who I defended from bullies in school, the boy who once told me that when he grew up, he would build me a castle. Now he couldn't even look me in the eye. Lucy, explain to your brother what we just discovered, I said. My daughter pulled out a folder and began to read aloud. Every document, every receipt, every piece of evidence of their betrayal, the $150,000 in renovations, the legal documents investigating how to dispossess me, the $250,000 loan with a forged signature, Vanessa's recorded conversations planning to keep my house. With every revelation, Robert sank further into the couch. When Lucy finished, the silence was absolute. Even the birds outside seemed to have stopped singing. Is it true? I asked my son. Is all of this true? Robert covered his face with his hands. Mum, the debts. I didn't know what to do. I was going to pay you back everything, I swear. You didn't answer me. Did you forge my signature? He looked up. His eyes were red. Yes. That simple word fell like a stone into a bottomless well. Then this is what is going to happen, Lucy said, taking control. You have 48 hours to leave this house. You will take only your clothes and personal belongings. All the furniture you bought with the fraud money stays here. You can't kick us out, Vanessa shouted. This house belongs to Robert too. It's his inheritance. It was his inheritance, I corrected her, until he decided to rob me while I was alive. Mom, please. Robert knelt in front of me. Real tears streamed down his face. Please, give me another chance. I'll fix everything. I'll get the money. You'll do what, Robert? You'll give me back my dignity. You'll erase the fact that you allowed me to be treated like a maid in my own house. You'll make me forget that you signed documents with my name without my permission. Mom, no. I stood up. For 42 years, I gave you everything. My youth, my health, my entire life. And when I finally needed you to care for me, to respect me, you chose to betray me in the worst possible way. Mom, I love you. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't plan to dispatch its mother to a small apartment to keep what she built. Robert was sobbing on the floor. Vanessa was on the couch, staring at the wall. Lucy took out some papers from her folder. Here is the document you will sign. It's an agreement where you recognize that you have no right to this property, that all improvements were made without authorization, and that you commit not to initiate any legal action against my mother. If you don't sign it, we file charges for property fraud with the district attorney tomorrow." "And if we sign it?" Vanessa asked, her voice barely audible. "If you sign it and leave without any trouble, we won't sue you. It's that simple." Robert looked at the document. Then he looked at me. "Mum, if I sign this, will you forgive me someday?" The question hung in the air, and I wondered, could I forgive something like this? Could I ever trust the son who had betrayed me this way again? "I don't know," I answered honestly. "Maybe someday, but not today, and not soon." Robert took the pen Lucy offered him. With a trembling hand, he signed the document. Vanessa did the same, her tears staining the paper. 48 hours, Lucy repeated. "And if you dare to damage anything, steal anything, or cause any trouble, we forget the agreement and you go straight to jail." They got up like zombies and went upstairs. We listened to them walk around on the second floor, open drawers, talk in whispers. I slumped onto the couch. The entire weight of the last few days hit me all at once. I started to tremble. Lucy sat next to me and hugged me. "It's over, Mum. It's over." But I knew it wasn't over. That the next 2 days were going to be a living hell. That watching my son pack up his life and leave the house I built for him was going to break me in ways I couldn't even imagine. But I also knew something else. That for the first time in a long time, I wasn't alone. And that this battle, finally, I was going to win. The next 2 days were a silent torture. Robert and Vanessa moved through the house like ghosts, avoiding my gaze, packing their belongings into cardboard boxes they had gotten from the grocery store. The sound of the adhesive tape closing the boxes became the soundtrack of those 48 hours. Lucy didn't leave my side for a moment. We slept together in the guest room, holding each other like when she was a child and had nightmares. But now the nightmare was real, and we were living it wide awake. Monday morning, the deadline day, Lucy decided it was time to have one last conversation. A conversation that would put everything on the table, without yelling, without tears, just truths. "We need to close this properly," she told me while we were having coffee in the kitchen. "Not for them, for you, so you can move forward without doubts." At 10 in the morning, the 4 of us sat at the dining room table. The same table where we had shared hundreds of meals. The table where Robert had done his homework as a child, where we celebrated his birthdays, his graduations, his engagement to Vanessa. Now it was the table of final judgment. Lucy had a thick folder in front of her. She opened it with precise movements and began to pull out documents one by one. "Before you leave," she began, "I want you to understand exactly what you did. Not to make you feel bad, but so you never do this to anyone else again." She placed the first document on the table. House deeds, signed in the year 2005. Total construction value, $800,000. My mother worked 15 years to save that money, 15 years cleaning, cooking, selling. While you, she looked at Robert, were studying, going out with friends, living a normal life. Robert stared at the table. Lucy put down another paper. Bank statements. "Here are the movements on Mum's credit card for the last 6 months." She pointed to a line marked with yellow highlighter. "Charges at department stores for $87,000. Vanessa, your name appears on several of the receipts as the person who signed. You used her card without authorization." Vanessa wrung her hands, but said nothing. Next, Lucy put down more papers. Loan agreement with a private lender from the neighborhood. $250,000 borrowed at 30% annual interest. Document with my mother's forged signature using this house as collateral. She looked up. Do you know what would have happened if you hadn't paid? The private lender would have started a legal process, and even though the signature was fake, the process would have been long, costly, agonizing. Mum would have had to hire lawyers, go to court, prove the fraud, all that while you were enjoying the stolen money. It wasn't like that, Robert began. Yes, it was like that, Lucy exploded. Exactly like that. And the worst part is you showed not 1 ounce of remorse until you were caught. She put down another document. Quotes with lawyers specializing in property law. Vanessa, you got 3 different legal opinions on how to claim possession rights over a property. All consultations were in February and March of this year. This wasn't an impulse. It was a plan calculated over months. I just wanted to secure our future, Vanessa murmured. At whose expense? Lucy asked her. At the expense of a 67-year-old woman who gave everything for her family. Vanessa stood up abruptly. Enough. What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? Fine, I'm sorry. Are you happy? But don't pretend your mother is a saint. She has always manipulated Robert. She's always made him feel guilty, as if he owed her his entire life just because she chose to sacrifice herself. I gasped. How dare you? I started. It's the truth. Vanessa had red cheeks, her eyes blazing. It's always, Mum suffered so much. Mum worked so hard. Mum sacrificed so much. And you know what? Yes, she did. But that was her choice. Robert didn't ask her to work herself to death. He just wanted a mother, not a martyr who charges him for every dollar invested. Robert put his hand on her arm. Val, stop. No, Robert. I'm not going to be quiet anymore. She turned toward me. I know we made mistakes. I know we messed up. But you're not perfect either, mother-in-law. Always trying to control Robert's life. Always interfering in our marriage. Always comparing me to your perfect life of sacrifice. The words stung. They stung because there was a small truth in them. Maybe I had been too present. Maybe I had used my sacrifice as an emotional weapon without realizing it. You're right, I said, and they all looked at me, surprised. I'm not perfect, and maybe I did make mistakes as a mother. Maybe I pressured you too much. Maybe I reminded you too many times of everything I did for you. I stood up, looking Robert in the eye. But none of that justifies what you did. None of that justifies stealing from me, forging my signature, planning to dispossess me of the only thing I have left. If you were angry with me, you should have talked about it. If you felt I was pressuring you, you should have set boundaries. But you had no right to destroy me. Robert had tears streaming down his cheeks. Mum, I never wanted to destroy you. I just felt so pressured. The debts, the work, Vanessa wanting a better house, and me not being able to give her anything. And there was this house, so big, just for you. And I thought if we could keep it, everything would be fixed. And my opinion, my will, didn't that matter? I thought you wouldn't notice until it was too late, he said, and the brutal honesty of his words was like a punch. I thought that by the time you found out, everything would be legally sorted out and you'd have to accept it. There it was, the naked truth. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an impulse. It was a deliberate plan to steal my house before I could defend myself. Lucy put the last document on the table. Mum's new will. We drafted it yesterday with the notary. It specifies that this house, upon her death, will pass completely into my name. Robert is explicitly excluded from any inheritance related to this property. You can contest it if you want, but with all the evidence we have, you won't win. Robert turned pale. You're disinheriting me? Yes, I replied, and my voice didn't tremble. Because a son who steals from his mother doesn't deserve to inherit anything from her. But you always said the house was for your children, for both of us. It was for my children, but you chose to stop being my son the day you forged my signature. The silence that followed was devastating. Robert broke down, deep sobs shaking his entire body. Vanessa hugged him, but even she seemed to understand there was no turning back. "You can go," Lucy said. "Your deadline was an hour ago. We gave you extra time, but no more. You have 2 hours to finish packing and leave. After that, if you're still here, we call the police." Robert got up, stumbling. He looked at me one last time. "Is there anything I can do for you to forgive me?" The question hung in the air, and I wondered, what could he do? What action could erase this betrayal? "I don't know, Robert. Maybe with time. Maybe if you prove with actions, not with words, that you understand what you did. But that doesn't mean you'll live here again. It doesn't mean I'll include you in my will again. Some things, once broken, never go back to being the same. But I'm your son, and I'm your mother, and you betrayed me." I took a breath. "Now go, please, before I regret not pressing charges." They went upstairs for the last time. Lucy and I followed them to supervise that they didn't take anything that wasn't theirs. We watched them put the last things into their suitcases, dismantle their decorations in my bedroom, watch as Vanessa took down the expensive curtains she had bought, the framed photos of the two of them, the modern lamp. When they finished, they brought the suitcases down. 4 large suitcases, 3 boxes. That was all they took from 3 years of living here. Robert loaded everything into his car parked outside. A car for which I had given him the down payment 2 years ago. Before getting in, he turned one last time. "Mum, take care." "Robert," I said, and closed the door. I stood there, on the other side, listening to the engine start, to him driving away, to my son leaving my house, maybe forever. Lucy hugged me from behind. "You did the right thing, Mum." "Then why does it hurt so much?" I whispered. "Because love doesn't just turn off overnight. Because even though he did something terrible, he's still your son. And that's the hardest part of all this, that the pain comes precisely from that love." I cried in my daughter's arms. I cried for the son I lost, not through death, but through betrayal. And that kind of loss hurts in ways that death never could. But when the tears finally dried, when I separated from Lucy and looked at my house, free of intruders, free of lies, I felt something new growing in my chest. It wasn't happiness, not yet. It was something smaller, more fragile, but real. It was peace. And in that moment, I knew I was going to be okay. That maybe it would take time, maybe I would never be the same, but I was going to survive this. Because I had survived worse things, and I had always come out ahead. The days after Robert and Vanessa left were strange. The house felt different, quieter, bigger. Sometimes I would find myself setting 3 plates at the table out of habit, and then I would have to put one away when I remembered that now it was just Lucy and me. My daughter stayed for a full week. She took days off from her law firm to stay with me, to make sure I was okay, but especially to help me reclaim my space. The first project was to undo everything Vanessa had done to my room. "We're going to bring your soul back to this room, Mum," Lucy said Tuesday morning. We went down to the garage and started bringing up my furniture. My mother's dresser, heavy, dark wood with hand carvings. Lucy got help from 2 young men from the neighborhood to bring up my bed. When they put it back in its original spot, I sat on the mattress and something inside me settled. "It doesn't smell like her perfume anymore," I said. We kept the windows open all week. The smell left, and so did she. Lucy hung my photographs back on the walls. "Look, Mum, here you are with Dad on your wedding day, so young." The photo looked back at me from its frame, the glass now repaired, Louis in his brown suit, me in my simple white dress. We had our whole lives ahead of us. We didn't know it would be so short for him, so difficult for me. "I miss him," I whispered, "especially now. He would know what to do about Robert." "I think he would have done exactly what you did," Lucy said. "Dad was gentle, but he wasn't a fool. He didn't tolerate betrayal." We spent 2 full days restoring my room. We painted the walls peach again. Lucy found the exact color paint I had used years ago online. We put up my floral curtains, my knit blankets, my family photos. When we finished, I stood in the center of my room and turned slowly, looking at every corner. "There," I said. "I'm home again." But while I was reclaiming my space, Robert and Vanessa were discovering the consequences of their actions. Lucy kept in touch with some people in the neighborhood, and the news arrived as whispers through gossipy neighbors who came to see how I was, but who really wanted to tell what they knew. Mrs. Lopez, the lady from the corner store, was the first to visit me. "Oh, Mary Ellen, that thing with your son is awful," she said, while drinking the coffee I offered her. "I saw him the other day carrying boxes into a building in a rougher part of town. Tiny, tiny apartments that rent for $8,500 a month. $8,500. Almost all of Robert's salary would go to rent." "And how did he look?" I asked, and I couldn't help the question. He was my son, after all. "Worn out, honey, with dark circles under his eyes." "And Vanessa?" "Ooh, she was in a terrible mood, yelling at the movers, complaining about everything." A week later, I ran into Mr. Martin, the owner of the hardware store where Robert used to buy things. "Mrs. Mary Ellen, your son came in the other day asking for a loan," he told me while I was buying new pots for my garden. I told him I couldn't help him, but he looked desperate. He said the collectors were looking for him. That private lender he owes money to is sending people to his job. The private lender. The $250,000 loan. Without the house as collateral, how was Robert going to pay? Lucy investigated on her own and told me what she discovered. "Robert is trying to renegotiate the debt," she told me one night while we were having dinner. "But the private lender doesn't want to. He's charging him interest on top of interest. The debt has already grown to $320,000, and without assets to offer, he can't get another loan to pay this one off. And at his job? There's another problem." Lucy picked at her food without appetite. "One of the collectors went to look for him at the office, made a scene at the reception. Robert's boss found out about the debts and the fraud. They didn't fire him, but they demoted him. He's no longer the supervising engineer, now he's an assistant. They cut his salary almost in half." I put my hand to my chest. No matter how much Robert had hurt me, he was still my son. And hearing how his life was crumbling hurt me in complicated ways. "And Vanessa? Is she suffering?" Lucy almost smiled, but it was a sad smile. "She had to look for a job for the first time in years. I saw her at the supermarket 2 days ago. She was filling out a job application for a cashier position." The image of Vanessa, always so well dressed, so boastful, working as a cashier was hard to imagine. 2 weeks after the eviction, I received a call. It was an unknown number. I hesitated before answering. "Hello?" "Mary Ellen, it's Clara, Vanessa's mother. Please don't hang up." Vanessa's mother, the one who told her daughter she was smart for trying to steal my house. "What do you want?" "I need to talk to you." Her voice sounded tired. "Can we meet? I have nothing to talk about with you. Please, just half an hour. I promise it's worth it." Something in her tone made me accept. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near my house the next day. Clara arrived on time. She was a woman my age, well dressed, but her face was marked by exhaustion. She sat across from me and ordered a black coffee. "Thank you for coming," she said. "You have 20 minutes," I replied coldly. She sighed deeply. "I've come to ask for forgiveness, on behalf of my daughter, and on my own." Forgiveness? I knew what Vanessa was planning. She told me everything, and instead of stopping her, I encouraged her. Her eyes filled with tears. I thought she was being shrewd, that she was securing her future. "I didn't think about you. I didn't think about the fact that we were destroying a family." "And now you do think? Now I see my daughter broken, crying every night, working jobs she hates, living in an apartment where you can hear everything the neighbors do. And the worst part is, Robert blames her. He says it was all her idea, that he never would have done anything if she hadn't pressured him." "And was it like that?" Clara shook her head. "I don't know. I think they were both to blame. But Robert is a coward. He prefers to blame her than accept his responsibility. And Vanessa, my daughter, is paying a very high price. As she should." "I know." Clara took her coffee with trembling hands. "I just came to tell you that I'm sorry, and that if you can ever forgive Vanessa, she is truly repentant. Truly." I stayed looking at her. This woman who had encouraged her daughter to rob me, who had participated in the plan. Now she came here repentant because everything went wrong. "Forgiveness is not asked for, Clara. It is earned, and your daughter has a very long way to go if she wants to earn it." "I understand." "And tell her something from me, that she learn her lesson, that she never, ever try to build her happiness on the destruction of another person, because life has ways of collecting those debts, always." Clara nodded, finished her coffee, and left. I never saw her again. That night, Lucy and I had dinner in the garden. I had bought fairy lights and hung them in the trees, even though it wasn't the holiday season. I just wanted my house to feel joyful again. "How are you feeling, Mum?" Lucy asked. "Strange," I admitted. "Sad, angry, relieved, all at the same time." "It's normal. You lost your son, but you got your house back. It's a painful exchange. Do you think Robert will ever come back? That he'll truly apologize?" Lucy thought about it. "I don't know, Mum. Maybe. Or maybe he'll never find the courage. Some children never learn. And me? Will I be able to forgive him? Only you know that, and only time will tell." I looked at my house illuminated with coloured lights, my garden with my geraniums growing healthy. My space recovered, my dignity restored. And I knew that whether I forgave Robert or not, I was going to be fine. Because I had learned the most important lesson of all, that love doesn't mean allowing abuse, that setting boundaries isn't cruelty, that protecting yourself doesn't make you a bad mother. It makes you human, and it makes you strong. Lucy had to return to Chicago after 2 weeks. Her job needed her. Her life was there. She hugged me tightly at the door before leaving. "Will you be okay alone, Mum?" "I'll be fine," I told her. And this time it wasn't a lie. "I'll call you every day, and if you need anything, anything at all, you get on a plane and I'll be here in 3 hours." "I know, honey. Go on. Go easy." I watched her drive away in her car and stayed at the door, feeling the morning sun on my face. The house was silent, but it was no longer an uncomfortable silence. It was peace. The following months were about rebuilding, not just my home, but myself. I hired Mr. Frank, a man from the neighborhood, to help me fix things that had broken over time. Leaks I had ignored, squeaky doors, windows that didn't close properly. Little by little, the house became what it was always meant to be, my sanctuary. I started cooking again, but now I was cooking for myself, with time, with love. I made my favorite dishes without worrying about anyone else's taste. BBQ when I felt like it. Chicken pot pie out of season. Breakfast tacos just because. And while I was healing, news about Robert and Vanessa kept coming. I didn't look for it, but the neighborhood has eyes and ears everywhere. Mr. Frank told me Robert had sold his car. I saw him on the subway the other day, Mrs. Mary Ellen. Your son on the subway, at 6 in the morning, packed in with all the people. He looked defeated. Without a car, without a good salary, with growing debts. Life was collecting every stolen dollar. Mrs. Lopez told me about Vanessa. I saw her at the market buying the cheapest of everything, bruised tomatoes, chicken that was about to expire, and she was carrying everything in supermarket bags because she doesn't even have a cart anymore. She used to come here showing off her Macy's bags, remember? I remembered. Vanessa always arrived with bags from Saks, showing off her purchases like trophies. Now she was looking for bargains at the market like any ordinary person. But the story that impacted me the most came 3 months after the eviction. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was in the garden watering my plants when the doorbell rang. I went to open it and found a woman I didn't know, 30-something, well-dressed, with a stern look on her face. Mary Ellen Fuentes. Yes, that's me. I'm Gabrielle Mason, attorney. I represent Mr. Julius Stone, the private lender to whom your son Robert owes $320,000. My heart sped up. I don't owe anyone anything. I know, but your son used this house as collateral. And although we know the signature was forged and the document is void, my client wants his money back. I'm here to ask if you would be willing to— No, I interrupted her. Whatever you're going to ask, the answer is no. That debt isn't mine, it's Robert's, and he has to pay it. The lawyer sighed. Mrs. Fuentes, I understand your position, but your son has no way to pay. My client is considering other measures, legal but unpleasant. Are you threatening me? No, ma'am. I'm just informing you. Robert filed a complaint alleging that you knew about the loan and are now refusing to help him. It's a lie, we know that. But I wanted you to know. I felt my blood boil. My son. He filed a complaint against me. 2 weeks ago. It was immediately dismissed because it had no legal basis, but he did it. When the lawyer left, I sat on the couch feeling the world spin. Robert had not only robbed me, not only betrayed me, now he was trying to blame me for his debts. I called Lucy immediately. Mum, breathe, breathe, she said from the other end of the line. That complaint has no value. It's a desperate attempt by Robert to get the problem off his back. How could he do that, Lucy? How could he try to drag me into his problems after everything? Because he's scared. Because he's a coward. And because he still hasn't learned that actions have consequences. Well, then let him learn the hard way. And that's what happened. 2 weeks later, I found out from Mrs. Lopez that Robert had been officially sued. The private lender lost patience and took the case to court. Without assets to seize, they requested a direct payroll deduction. 30% of Robert's salary was going to go directly to paying off the debt for the next 5 years. The boy won't even be able to breathe, Mrs. Lopez said, shaking her head. With how little he earns and taking away 30%, they'll be living on a prayer. And it was true. Vanessa had to get a second job. I saw her one night when I went to the 7-Eleven near my house. She was there, behind the counter, in the blue and red uniform, serving customers with an exhausted look on her face. Our eyes met. She turned pale. I didn't say anything. I paid for my things and left. But I saw in her eyes everything she had lost. Her arrogance, her confidence, her perfect plan for an easy life. Justice doesn't always come with dramatic blows. Sometimes it comes like this, slow, constant, like water wearing down a stone. 4 months after the eviction, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. This time it was Robert. "Mom." His voice sounded broken, small. "I need to talk to you. I have nothing to talk about. Please, just 5 minutes. I need to ask you something." Something in his tone made me accept. We met at the same coffee shop where I had spoken with Clara. Robert was unrecognizable. He had lost weight. He had grey hairs he didn't have before, deep circles under his eyes, his clothes wrinkled. He sat across from me and couldn't look me in the eye. "Thanks for coming," he murmured. "What do you want, Robert?" "I came to apologize. Truly. Without excuses, without justifications. What I did was unforgivable. I robbed you. I betrayed you. I tried to take what was yours. And then, like a coward, I tried to blame you for my own mistakes." The words sounded sincere, but I no longer knew if I could believe him. "And what do you expect me to do with that apology?" "Nothing. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I needed you to know that every day I wake up with the weight of what I did, that I can't sleep thinking about your face when you discovered everything, that I've lost my mother because of my own stupidity. Does Vanessa know you're here?" "Vanessa and I separated." I stayed silent. It didn't work. When the money ran out, when we had to face reality, we realized we had nothing else. Our marriage was built on comfort and appearances. Without that, only resentment remained. She left with her mother 2 weeks ago. We signed the divorce yesterday. "And you came to tell me this. Why?" "Because I needed you to know that I'm paying, that life is collecting every mistake, and that even though I can't fix what I broke, I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be a better person. Not for you, for me, because I don't want to end up alone, bitter, with nothing and no one." I stayed looking at him, my son, the man who had been a sweet child who brought me flowers from the garden, the one who hugged me and told me I was his hero. Where had that child been lost? "Robert, I don't know if I can ever completely forgive you. I don't know if our relationship will ever go back to what it was. But," I took a breath, "I wish you peace, that you learn from this, and that you never ever do to anyone what you did to me." "Does that mean—" "It doesn't mean anything yet. It means I'm open to seeing what you do with your life from now on. Words are easy, Robert. Action are what count." His eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Mum. It's more than I deserve." He got up to leave. Before exiting the coffee shop, he turned around. "I love you, Mum. I've always loved you. And I'm so sorry I hurt you." I watched him go, walking slowly with his shoulders slumped, and I felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe it was the beginning of something, a very long path toward healing. Because poetic justice doesn't always mean total destruction. Sometimes it means giving someone the opportunity to rebuild from the ashes of their own mistakes. And maybe, just maybe, Robert would succeed. Or maybe not. But that was no longer my responsibility. My only responsibility now was to myself. And for the first time in a long time, I was fine. 8 months have passed since Robert and Vanessa left my house. 8 months that feel like an eternity. Now, when I wake up in the mornings, the first thing I do is open the curtains of my room and let the sun in. The light fills the space and touches every object I recovered. My mother's dresser, the photographs on the walls, the knit bedspread my sister gave me when we inaugurated the house. Everything is in its place, and so am I. I've learned to live alone again. It's not sad loneliness, the kind that crushes your chest. It's chosen solitude, peaceful, mine. Lucy comes to visit me once a month. She stays for the weekend, and we cook together, like when she was a child. She teaches me how to use my phone better. Now I can even make video calls. She shows me pictures of her life in Chicago, of her work, of her friends. She tells me her plans, and I listen with pride, knowing that at least one of my children grew up to be a good person. "Mum, you have to meet someone," she told me on her last visit. "You can't stay cooped up here forever." "I'm not cooped up, honey. I'm where I want to be. But a companion, some friends, something." I smiled at her. "I have friends. Mrs. Lopez and I play dominoes on Thursdays. I joined a church group that does crafts. And Mr. Frank invited me to the Saturday dance afternoons at the community centre." "Really?" Lucy looked at me, surprised. "And you went?" "I went once," I laughed. "I danced a waltz with a very kind gentleman named Arthur, 72 years old, widowed, with 3 daughters who live in the States. He stepped on my feet twice, but it was fun." My daughter hugged me. "Oh, Mom, I'm so glad to see you like this. After everything that happened, I thought you were going to be bitter, angry at the world." "I was angry, for a long time. But anger is like a poison you drink, hoping it will kill the other person. It only poisons you." I looked out the window at my garden. I decided I had already lost enough time. I wasn't going to lose any more fueling grudges. That night, when Lucy went to sleep, I stayed alone in the living room. I pulled out an old box from under my bed. Inside were all the letters and drawings Robert had made me when he was a child. "To the best mum in the world," one said in his crooked, childlike handwriting. A drawing of the 3 of us, Louis, Robert, and me, holding hands in front of a house. I cried, not from rage, from sadness, because that child existed, that love existed. And even though adult Robert had betrayed me, the child for whom I was once everything was also real. I put the box away again. I didn't throw it out. Maybe someday I would need it to remember that people are complicated, that we can love and hurt, that we can be good and make terrible mistakes. Robert has called me 3 times in these 8 months. Short conversations, uncomfortable at first. He tells me he got a new job, better paid, at a small construction company, that he's living in a rented room, alone, learning to cook, that he's going to therapy to understand why he made the decisions he did. I haven't given him false hope. I haven't told him all is forgiven, because it's not. But I listen to him, and maybe, with time, we can build something new, not what we had before. That died, but maybe something different, more honest, more real, or maybe not. And that's okay too, because I learned that a mother's love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself until you disappear. It doesn't mean letting people walk all over you because they're your flesh and blood. True love includes boundaries. It includes respect. It includes the dignity of saying, enough is enough. This house that I built with my own hands, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, is no longer just a building. It's a symbol. It's proof that I can survive impossible losses, that I can get up when I'm knocked down, that my worth doesn't depend on whether my children acknowledge me or not. I am worthy because of who I am, because of what I built, because of the battles I won and the ones I lost, because of every scar I carry with dignity. Now, when I walk through my house, I touch the walls and whisper to them, "We resisted, you and I. We resisted together." And it's true. The other day, Mrs. Lopez told me Vanessa had left the neighborhood, that she moved to another state with her mother, that she left everything behind and started from scratch. I wish her the best. Seriously. Because holding a grudge is like carrying stones. They only weigh you down. Mr. Frank told me he saw Robert at Mass last Sunday. He looked different, Ma'am. More humble, more present. Maybe he's changing, maybe not. Time will tell. But I'm no longer waiting for anyone to change to be happy. I no longer need my children's validation to know I was a good mother. I did the best I could with what I had. I gave everything I had to give. And if that wasn't enough for Robert, that's his problem, not mine. Tonight, I sat in my garden with a cup of chamomile tea. The coloured fairy lights that I never took down illuminate the trees. It's cold, but I like to feel the fresh air on my face. It reminds me that I'm alive, that I survived. And as I sit here, thinking about everything that happened, everything I lost, and everything I gained, I come to a simple but powerful conclusion. It was worth it. It was worth fighting for what was mine. It was worth setting boundaries even though it hurt. It was worth saying no even though they called me selfish. It was worth defending myself even if it meant losing, temporarily or forever, the relationship with my son. Because at the end of the day, when I close my eyes in my bed, in my room, in my house, I can sleep in peace. I don't have to wonder who is going to try to dispossess me tomorrow. I don't have to tiptoe around in my own home. I don't have to pretend everything is fine when it's not. I am free. And that freedom, that peace, is priceless. Today I want to say something to all of you who are listening to me. To all the women who have given so much, who have sacrificed so much, who feel like they can't take it anymore. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to say stop. You have the right to protect what you build with your own hands, with your own sweat, with your own tears. You are not bad mothers for demanding respect. You are not bad people for defending yourselves. You are not selfish for putting your well-being first. Generosity is beautiful. Sacrifice is noble. But when that generosity turns into abuse, when that sacrifice erases you as a person, when you give so much that there's nothing left of you, then it's not love. It's self-destruction. And you are worth more than that. Your children, your partners, your relatives, they have to learn that respect is not asked for. It is demanded. That love without respect is not love. That family doesn't mean infinite tolerance for abuse. If someone tries to strip you of what is yours, whether it's a house, your dignity, your peace, you have the right to defend what belongs to you. And if that means distancing yourself from people you love, if that means being alone temporarily, if that means they call you harsh or bitter, so be it. Because chosen solitude is 1,000 times better than company that destroys you. And remember, it's never too late to reclaim your life. I was 67 years old when I had to face the biggest betrayal of my life. 67 years old. Many people told me I was too old to fight, to start over, to be alone. But here I am, 68 years old, stronger than ever, more at peace than ever, more myself than ever. Age doesn't define you. The mistakes of others don't define you. What defines you is how you respond when life hits you. If you stay down, or if you get up. If you accept the abuse, or if you say, Never again. I chose to get up. And if you are listening to this and going through something similar, I want you to know you can get up too. You have that strength inside you. Maybe you don't believe it now. Maybe you feel broken, finished, too tired to fight. But the strength is there, waiting. You just need to make the decision. One decision at a time, one day at a time, one boundary at a time. And one day, I don't know when, you'll wake up and realize you survived, that you came out ahead, that you reclaimed your life. And that day you'll smile and you'll know that every tear, every fight, every moment of pain was worth it. Because in the end, the only thing that really matters is this. Can you look in the mirror and be proud of the woman you see? Can you sleep in peace, knowing you defended yourself? Can you live with dignity in the space you built? If the answer is yes, then you won. And I, Mary Ellen Fuentes, 68 years old, owner of this house that I built with my own hands, can say with all my heart, I won. If this story touched your heart, if it made you reflect on your own life, leave me a comment telling me where you're watching from. Share your country, your city, and if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video, like it so more women can find the strength they have within. And subscribe to the channel to continue joining us for more real-life stories from real women who found their dignity when all seemed lost. Remember, your life belongs to you. Your space belongs to you. Your peace belongs to you. And no one, absolutely no one, has the right to take it away. See you in the next story. Take good care of yourselves. And never forget, you are worth everything